Good morning. We got the carpet out yesterday. Lindsay's gonna help me get these bolts out today. Got to get those things out, which means 2 people. I'm gonna get up underneath and crank or hold, and she'll be doing whatever's opposite right up here. But those have got to come out for us to get the floor completely cleared. So that's the plan for right now, and then we'll cut some strips later for the valleys to fill those in to get them nice and even. Super cold today. Super cold.
So cold. Look, there's still ice on there.
There's still ice. Try that one.
We got the first 2 out. Which one are you at? The one on the left? Which one? I don't. The one on top that we just did?
Oh, Champs-Élysées, ba-da-da-da-da. Oh, Champs-Élysées, ba-da-da-da-da. Au soleil, sous la pluie, à midi ou à minuit, les filles ont tous comme vous voulez, aux Champs-Élysées.
Look, there's the date on here. April 8th, 1992. Or something. For $4.08.
Huh. Ooh, I think it's just so cold.
Take a little break.
It's so bumped up. That's weird. Why is it like that?
You bumped up.
I mean, look at that valley. See, we're gonna fill in all these holes with a lot of goop. It's brand new on the bottom side. Alright, so I've been on the ground trying to get these bolts, these last 2 bolts out. Right here. Those you can see kind of, there's some insulation on the other side. That insulation is because directly underneath it is the exhaust pipe. And so they built shields, little silver shields, between the exhaust, the insulation, and those bolts. So it required me to take off these silver plates to actually get to those last 2 bolts. And of course, it wasn't one big plate that came down, it was 2 separate plates. So lots of screws up under there. It wasn't anything too terrible. You did have to work around the exhaust a little bit. But overall, I feel like, you know, that wasn't too hard. But it was definitely wasn't something I was expecting to have to do right off the bat. All right, so day 2 on getting the carpet out and putting the beginnings of the next floor in. So these are the valleys. We need to fill all these in. All right, so I've already measured. I've got the appropriate wood. I think it's like 1132 or something like that. So it should flatten right up to it. I have some epoxy, some adhesive that's gonna be put on there, but it's looking like I need 15. There's 15 long, and I think it's approximately 10 or 13 feet that way, so it actually will surpass the first 4x8 board, and I'll actually need to put more right here. So it'll get me to about right here, this little divide. But this is to help for support and to make sure everything's nice and level. And it'll also provide a spot to anchor our floor. We'll countersink some screws down into it to where it won't go into the floor. But that's what we'll ultimately screw our top level of our floor down into. Also, I need to go ahead and caulk all these up. Now these valleys right here, as you can tell, they're not all flat. They're not all like right here. So where it bumps up, what I'll do is just stop it right here. I'll cut it and then put it somewhere else. And then this right here will just stay as it is. That shouldn't be that big of a deal. It should still have enough stability and strength that even whenever we don't put a slat in the middle, that it should still hold up pretty well. So that's the plan right now. Each one of those little valleys for this particular van is approximately just less than 1.5 inches. I'm talking 1 millimeter short of 1.5 inches. So I'm going to try to cut each one of these right at the width. I'm not going to fill it out with the angle, but I'm just going to have like just going to be one little block of wood all the way down. So that's the goal. I'll use a table saw, start cutting it up. Let's do it. there's a lot of goo on the ground, a lot of just different adhesives and stuff that were there, I guess, for the carpet and other things. And I'm trying to scrape it up pretty good. I'm also trying to clear out and around any of these holes that are going to need caulk so that it stays a little bit better. So right now I'm just cleaning and scraping around each one of those so that I can go ahead and caulk them. And then at some point I'll come back and get whatever adhesive that might actually be an issue up so that we can cleanly fill these valleys. So that's what I'm doing. Alright, so all my little gaps are clean. So I'm ready to put this sealant. It's the Lap Sealant Self-Leveling. This will also be used whenever I put the fan on the roof and whatever holes I have to put in for the solar panels. And if it's too cold, it will not squeeze out. So I've got my heating gun, and I'm just gonna get it nice and warm, cut it, and start filling it in. I've seen this little trick before. So if you're filling in a gap, about like this one, you know, you put a little epoxy on it, and you kind of flatten it with that, and then you epoxy around that. So the hole is filled up and kind of everywhere around it. It's not just a big gaping hole with just silicone. So for whatever flat ones, that's probably what I'm going to do. But with ones like this that are like on a ridge, I mean, I don't think I'm going to do it on those. I think I'm just going to fill it in with as much as I can. It almost works. A little circular motion. Kind of all around, real nice. Make sure it is as full as it's going to be. And then whoop. Oh, that one's definitely going through. What I'll have to do is come back and do it again whenever that dries up. Uh-oh, penny's going right through. Ah! And it's on the ground. That stinks. And about to lose that penny. And it's gone. Well, I had just enough pennies, and now they're all gone. Back with a couple more pennies. What if I doubled it up? Is that crazy? But that's it for the holes. Check these other ones. As you see, that one's already opening right back up. Take this board and use arguably old and used table saw right here. So just gonna feed it right through and hope for the best. Now I will say, if this thing does do exactly what I want it to, it'll produce, I think, 32 of the little slats. So really one of these might actually fill up the entire thing. That would be really cool. So but let's test it just to see what it looks like. Let me preface this with, I've never used a table saw before. And this one's super low to the ground. I don't exactly know what happened to its legs or anything, but it's the one I've got. Yeah, you'll figure it out pretty quickly that I've never used it before, but let's just see what happens. I've got it set up right to an inch, just under an inch and a half. That looks about right. And this is in the way. Let's go a little bit further over. This is probably ridiculous looking. This thing moved. Damn it. Some of it's still usable, but all that would do is really mess up 2 of them, so let's make sure that thing does not move for the life of it. Okay, so the first test didn't go that well. It's just a stupid setup right here. I should do it better. So I'm going to get this set up a little bit better. I'm just going to go strip by strip all the way through. The first one, the actual wall moved that's supposed to brace it up to maintain that 1.5 inches. And it got pushed, and so, I don't know, I did some stupid stuff. But then I kind of, still some of it was cut correctly, so I cut that off, checked it in one of the little valleys, and sure enough, it does fit right in. So, I'm just going to start cutting once I get all this stuff set up. Finally starting to sweat a little. Done with that thing for the day. Table saw can be put up. Okay, all the little cuts for the values right here, cut. They're not perfect, but they're really close to it. They fit. Now, you could go skinnier, but you just can't go wider. So I didn't go any wider, even though some of them look kind of funny right up here, but you know, you have that space, that little lip, because of how much space is on each side. So anyway, I'm about to start marking off where I don't want wood, like right here. I'll cut it right there. So right there, and then just push it past so it doesn't interfere with anything like that. So anywhere where it has like some sort of lump or something, I just don't want a piece of wood on because it'll just cock it up too far. I'm just gonna cut. So that's what I'm gonna do, is start marking.
There's been rumors of war, wars that have been. The meaning of life has been lost in the wind. Some people thinking that the end is close by. Still learning to live, they are learning to die. Let me die. My footsteps before I go down under the ground. I don't know if I'm smart, but I think I can see when someone...
Well, there we go. I wish I'd cleaned it first so it would be ready to epoxy. However, I just did this to cut everything up to have a good idea of what it looks like. I still need a couple more cuts. Hopefully I remember where all these little pieces go, but I think I'll be able to do that. I'm gonna go ahead and vacuum, and hopefully I don't forget where all these things go, and pretty much call it a night. I'm gonna have to get all the adhesive ready together tomorrow or something. I don't know. It's getting late, about to get dark. So since I cut all these and kind of placed them before they were ready to go in or even be vacuumed or anything, if I take them all out, I'm gonna not be able to find where each one went. So what I'm doing is drawing a little diagram on each one to show what's the front and approximately where that one went. You know, it kind of, one has to fit right there. So kind of middle upper right, this means the front, a dot means where the front is. So I think that little system will be able to get me where I need to be.